everyone, it's Daphne, and we're going to continue working on the Grand Hotel by Stamperia. And I'm just going to preview some of what I'm going to put on the cover, just so you can see what's going on. We are actually moving on to page 3, which I have laid out, so it should go pretty quickly. And what I've decided to do here for the closure is I'm going to use this piece of ephemera, and then I'm going to put some magnets on one side, so it'll be glued here and magnets up here, so the glue will keep this bottom one closed, and then it'll operate as a flap like so. So I just want to give you a heads up that that's what we're doing. And ooh, I think I almost forgot to bring my magnets in here, but here they are. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to probably work from the top inside. So I'm going to lay down this panel first, and then figure out the placement of my magnets. And with that, I'm going to sit down. So here we go. It's coming along. Get my glue cap off. I've got my contrast sheet here. Slip that in there. And this looks like, oh, remember when we were doing the installation, we shaved these down just a little bit. So that means I need to cut this down as well. Let's see how that works now. That looks right on. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Maybe. Wasn't wanting to sit in the trimmer straight, so there we go. Okay, so what I did was I cut this sheet out and then I split it in half so you can see a continuation of the pattern, which I normally like to do. However, it doesn't really matter since I'm going to put this piece of ephemera on top of it anyway. So let's get that ink, that raw edge inked, and I'll lay this one down. And now that I mentioned it, it is a continuation, but I have the whole thing in upside down. So it goes like that. And I can tell because coral doesn't grow, or branches don't grow down, they grow up. So that's what I see. So I need to dry fit that one more time since it's a new piece. And ink its edge. And here I've actually distressed a little bit into the paper, and you can see that's that mahogany, and it just looks perfect with this paper. So in the last video, there was a lot of rumbling, and I apologize for that, and there may be some happening here soon. That's my air conditioner, which happens to be placed strategically right outside my craft room. So they put that air conditioner right under the window. I don't know what they were thinking. If they put it on the other side of the house, it would have been butted up against the garage. Who would care? So I just wonder sometimes, what are they thinking? At any rate, it may pop on and off. It's quite warm here today, even though it's not even 9 o'clock. Okay, that's in. And I like it. This is one of my favorite patterns. I wish I had more sheets of it. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside because we know we're going to do some magnet placement there, but I'm not ready to do it. So we're going to open it up and start looking at the inside. So I've got my pieces arranged by top and bottom. These are the bottom pieces. I'm just shifting it so this is easier for me to see. And I believe my plan had to be this because I can't use that. And then again, I'll need to shave this down because I had trimmed that. and looking at this, I guess I haven't inked it, so a few more minutes to get that all done. Seconds. So hope everybody's doing well. I released another tips video. Some of you have already commented, and I thank you very much. And it was about the glue tip that I use for art glitter glue, which I really like. So I'm going to go ahead and answer one of the questions here. Somebody asked me, how is this different than the stainless steel tip that has a straight pin in it? And they both provide the same function. But what I like about this over the other glue tip was, one, sometimes I would apply force and the whole tip would fall off, which is quite annoying. And that didn't happen very often, but what I really prefer about this one is I don't lose my cap. When I say cap, I mean this. I was forever looking for my straight pin. I generally have a ton of paper all over my desk because I'm doing coordinating of patterns, and that takes quite a bit of space, and I was forever covering it up or knocking it off the table and looking for a straight pin. Can't find a straight pin, go to my sewing kit and get one, get a pin that's not really stainless steel, and then get, you know, rust inside my tip, and then that would transfer onto my project. So what I really like is this tip. I don't lose it. It's not flat, so it doesn't, and it also, because of these little notches on the side, it won't roll off the table. That prevents it from just rolling like a pencil would, or any tube. So those are my reasons. Okay, and then on the inside here, we're going to make use of, and I'm going to shift this again so I can get the whole pocket on my work surface. Make use of the cardstock again, and I'm doing a staggered pattern, and I think I'm going to use this side. I can go either way, but I've already used that quite a bit in the album, so I'm going to go with this side, which is kind of the patchwork side. So before I get these laid down, I'm going to verify the fit and then get them glued in. And all this goes pretty quick because I'm not dealing with any magnets on this part. And this needs to be trimmed out a little bit. When I was planning for this page, I did some rough cutting because I was trying to make sure I didn't run out of cardstock, so I didn't actually fine tune it. So we'll do that together, and that looks good. And so this is going to go here, and so I'm just trying to see if I need to knock anything off the edge. And I think I'm going to make it a little bit shorter as well. And that should do it. Yep. Now, because I did that, I need to trim this piece off as well. And it should all butt up to each other perfectly. See how that meets? So that's always what I'm looking for. Once I know they're the same size, then I'll spread them apart. All right, now I'm just gonna lay this down, make sure I'm happy with it before I add some glue. And actually, I trimmed the gray one a little more than I wanted to. So I'm just gonna adjust. I can't add another gray piece because I don't have enough. I'm just going to slide them slightly closer together, and I will make sure that whatever I put here is keeping in line with what I've done here. All right, let's get some glue on here. And I need to remember to ink the edges of the trim piece. there's that air conditioner. I would close my blinds because it makes it quieter, but then I don't have natural light, which is my preferred light for working, especially doing videos. It comes out so much better. And the colors are so much truer for you guys that are watching. Never as good as in person, but a lot better. Okay, so there we go. So now I am going to trim this one, and we want consistency, so I'm just going to trim them to be the same. And it looks like let me see. Somewhere between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch is what I took off. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm actually going to do this. Before I take any more off, I want to see how it fits. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ink this and get it down. Shift my contrast paper up to the edge there. There we go. So I can see this corner. Now let's see what we've got here. So definitely need to shorten it. As you can see, it's quite a bit taller. Okay. Okay. I just flipped it over because there was a little bit of a pencil mark on the other side. And that looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and lay it down. And it's a little fussy for me because, like I told you guys before, it's easier for me to teach with the pages in the album, but if I was just constructing on my own, I think I'd try to do as much out of the album as possible because I've got this lip here. It's making the paper not sit flat, which when I go to push the mat down, I don't know if the paper's not square or if it's because there's a bubble here that I'm fighting. So it's something to consider as you're going, and it may be that, you know, you want to get some experience and you just follow along with me the way it is now, but then once you feel a little more confident, you could just go and start building your pages out of the album and add them at the last minute or after they're decorated. And then you get to work on a completely flat surface, or not completely, but much flatter than this. All right, that looks pretty good. So there, that is finished. And then I can't get my, there we go. There. So there's our centerpiece, and I'm gonna go ahead and measure it out because I left it loose because I thought I might need to put a magnet under it, but that's not the direction we're headed. So I'm going to go ahead and dry fit it and trim it out if required. And I may want to trim it out just so it's the same. Yeah. So you can see it's a little bit wider than the page here. So I'm thinking I want to trim that out. And again, all these tweaks are because I narrowed this flap so it wouldn't get stuck in the hinge in the first place. So I'm just now going back and adjusting everything else to follow. And oops. Wow, that didn't feel right. And I'll try to do this for the duplicate page offline, so you don't have to watch me do all this trimming. It's not very exciting. Okay, now I'm going to turn it sideways so I can look at how it's fitting left to right. Or top, it'll be left to right in this orientation, top to bottom if we were looking at it the other way, I guess. All right. That looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to ink it and commit it. Oh, that's Nala in the background. So we've got some folks working on our pool in the backyard, and she's not having it. She's like, who are these people in my space? So I may have to stop for a minute and go try to distract her so she's not just standing there barking at the poor workmen and my husband. All right, but I am going to get this in first. Oh, I hear the tinkle of her collar. Maybe she's coming to see me. That's good timing. I'm done with this, and now I'm going to go off and deal with my dog. I'll be back to finish this page in a few minutes. All right, so I'm going to turn it right side up. And there's where we're at. So we're going to start working on the top half of this page when I get back. Everyone, let's continue working on page 3. Okay, so we've got this one in, and I put down the mat, and now I'm going to flip it over and work on the top panel. And we are going to use some magnets, and we're going to use some ephemera or cut apart on the outside piece, and then here's our inside. So I'm going to go ahead and get the inside laid down first, and then come back to the cover and deal with the magnets for the closure and the ephemera piece. Okay, so first I'm gonna check this out, and I think I need to trim it down because, like I said, I had narrowed both of these panels at installation to make sure they were clear of the spine. And that looks pretty good, so I'm gonna ink it and lay it down. I was having a senior moment. I couldn't remember if I hit play. All right, you're good to go. Oops. Here we go. Okay, that's in, but yeah. Oh, you know what? I do need to trim it. Oh, so what happened here is I dry fit and I saw this gap on the other side and it actually is too big, so I need to trim a little bit off. Luckily I caught that while the glue is still wet. Okay, now we're gonna look at this again. There's a contrast sheet behind it like I should have done in the first place. Okay, now we're right on. So I'm gonna add a little more glue because it dries so quickly. Make sure I got enough on my corners that they'll go down. Okay, let's do this again. There we go, much better. That's why it's always good to have a white contrast sheet handy. Okay, so that's done. So now we're gonna lay this out. I'm gonna shift my book a little bit so that I can get to everything. And I noticed that my top flap is bulging. It's gonna get held in place by that piece of ephemera, but it's a little disappointing. So I'm gonna make sure, as I'm laying these two pieces down, that there's plenty of room for it to fold over on itself. And I need to trim this down. It looks like about 1/8 of an inch. It's still pretty tight, so I'm gonna go a little bit more. And like I said, I just want to make sure I'm steering clear of that and this score line so that when we fold it over on itself, it doesn't want to stand up like this one did. Actually, let's see, how's that fitting? You will need to cut these two mats individually because this is actually a little bit smaller than this. And that's deliberate so that it'll fold over onto itself. So don't just take the measurement from the bottom one. Make sure you fit these to your project. Okay. I'm going to do just a little more. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get these two pieces in, and then we will we'll also dry fit for this as well, so I know how close or far to place these. Or actually, I need to trim this. Yeah. And this. So let's start by trimming the length of this one. Okay, that's right on. And now I need to create a little bit of a gap between the two. So I'm going to go a little bit at a time so I don't overdo it. A little more. And that should do it. Let's see. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. I have a camera mount And it is difficult for you to see what I'm doing, but I have a camera mount, and then what happens is I'm actually butting against it here. So I'm going to show you what I was doing is I'm actually just measuring the distance from the edge between each other and the edge. And so I was just trimming that out to make sure it's perfect, and is. I'm going to ink it and get it down, and you'll actually see me be able to better see the next panel that I work on. And it's going to be the same process. And again, I just want to remind you that you need to trim out these pieces to fit the panel because there's a slight difference in the size. I think this is about a 1/16 or an 1/18 of an inch smaller than that by design so that it'll fold over on itself. Okay, and then this goes here, and I will share that with you once I get it down. I've tried my camera mount on the side, I've tried it straight in the front, I've tried lots of different things, but it doesn't seem to matter where I put it, it's in my way. So I'll do my best to try to remember that. And I don't have it hooked up to a laptop or an iPad, so I don't see what you're seeing. I have to stand up every time and look in the camera to see if I'm out of frame. But I generally know when I'm getting toward the end of my mat, I'm out of frame. Okay, so that's what I just completed. And actually, there's a little gunk right here, and this is actually the adhesive that held the Stamperia pad together. So I'm going to come back through with an X-Acto knife and clean that up. I tried to clean that off in the first place before I laid down, but I missed it. So here's what we just finished, and we're going to do the same thing in a mirror. So we're going to apply the gray panel here and the coordinating element on this side. And right now I'm checking to see that both these pieces of paper are the same size, and it looks like I need to trim one of them. The gray piece needs to be trimmed down ever so slightly. So ever so slightly, that looks to me like about a 1/16 of an inch. But it really is this level of detail that makes your book look really good, you know, where you see your lines continuing straight across. There are some styles that are a little bit more relaxed, and those are fine too, but this is sort of my preferred design aesthetic. It's not for everybody, but I think I would have a really hard time doing a junk journal because there's no right angles. Although I can appreciate them, I think it just goes against my personal grain to do it. I'd be constantly looking for right angles and symmetry, and it's the whole anti-symmetry thing going on with a junk journal that makes them so charming. All right, so I think I'm getting close. Am I? Does it look good? I think I can take a little bit more off. All right, I'm gonna commit. We're gonna do it. Can't work around my fingers there. Okay, so we're getting close to wrapping up the internal components, and then we'll get, oh shoot, carried some glue across the front. Then we will figure out our magnet placement and closures. And I'm looking for this continuous line here, and that looks pretty good. It's slightly off, but it's pretty good. I can live with that. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on this side. And no, I can't. I thought I could, but I really need to move it over because I won't have an even gap on this side. So sorry about that. Some days everything just goes my way and goes right in, and other days there's lots of lifting and replacing. So I'm gonna scooch this over more. There. That is actually right on. Okay, I'm happy with that. And probably nobody can tell on the video, but in person you'd see the difference. Okay, now I should have a nice even strip between on both sides of this. Okay, I'm gonna ink it, we'll lay it down, and then we can close this and get our magnets in. And this is page 3. We'll be finishing page 3. It's not really directional, but I'm trying to decide which way do I like it better. And for me, it feels like it flows a little better this way, so that's what I'm gonna do. Ta-da! Now we're going to turn everything right side up. And figure out our magnet. Okay, so here is what I'm thinking. Thinking this is going to get glued to this panel, and then this is going to sit here, and then inside I'm going to have a magnet. So I'm going to determine magnet placement, and I'm going to test this because it may take more than one magnet because it's holding a lot of weight. So it's going to be roughly here. Okay, so I'm going to put a magnet up here toward the top on the inside. Actually, I should have done it this way. So about here, and then if I need a second magnet, I'm going to put it here. So there we go. So when you, I have to think about that a minute. So now I need to think about how I'm going to keep this closed as well. I should have put it underneath this piece of ephemera, and I actually think I have another piece of this ephemera, so I think that's what I'm going to do. Page 3. Okay, do I have that? I'm just looking really quick to see which ephemera cards I have left. And naturally I don't have that one in here. It's here somewhere. Here it is. Ta-da! Okay, so I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to attach the magnet to this, and then I'll mount some black cardstock to it, make it a bifold, and put the opposing magnet right here. Okay, so I'm going to take a break and go create a card for this, get the magnet attached to the ephemera and to the card. Be right back. Guys, I'm back, and I just went and created a bifold card. I've got my ephemera. I'm going to attach a magnet to the back of my ephemera and then adhere it to this card. So I think I decided I want it toward the top in case I have to apply a second magnet. I have room for it, so that is what I am thinking. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue it down here, leaving this cover off and this off because I have to find my mate. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to try to center it, and I think that's pretty close, and now I'm looking for it side to side to make sure it's not drifting up or dropping down. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to draw a quick reference line, get some glue down here. And I'm just looking for my stopping point on my glue. So it looks like it's going to be about right here. Okay. And here is my posing magnet, which is stuck right now. There we go. All right, so we're gonna do that. And here it is. I was gonna say, did I get in here without my tape? Because that would be just like me to forget something. Okay, now we're moving the cover. We're making sure this is completely in the closed position where we want it. And I'm pressing that magnet into place. And then we're gonna go ahead and put some tape over this one. And it feels like, I'm gonna add this real quick because I know I have this additional layer. I'm gonna stand it up and make sure it wants to stay shut because that's a lot of weight and it's behaving. So I think one magnet is enough. So with that, let's go ahead and add our ephemera card, which I may or may not have inked. I have not. And I'm having to sit and remember if I hit play. So hopefully you guys got all this to start over. Okay, let's get the tape off. So although this book is not very complex, because there's so many folds, there's quite a few designer pieces that need to be trimmed out and fit. So it is it's actually one of my larger albums in terms of paper consumption. Oops, there we go. That looks, it's too high now. There we go. Okay, I'm just working around that magnet a little bit. All right, and then on the inside, I'm actually going to use another piece of ephemera, and I will do the flip side. I don't know which one I'm going to use. I have to go through and plan the rest of my ephemeras before I do, because I may actually be using it somewhere else in the book. So that'll be part of the embellishment phase. So now that that's in, and we know it holds securely, it's time to double check, because I had a floating magnet and made me nervous. Okay, it's holding, so we are going to apply this last panel. So I'm going to dry fit it, get all this out of your field of vision. I think I'm going to take the sliver off. a little bit. Yeah, I like that better. We're ready. Do I check side to side? Yeah, they're right on. Okay. Right on. Okay, this is our last panel for page 3. Okay, I am going to come back during the embellishment phase, and I'm moving this so you can see, cover the back of this ephemera, but right now I'm just going to set that aside and we'll move on to the next page. Page 2, page 3, we are now on to page 4 and 5, and I'm going to stop here, and because I think I'm about at an hour, and then we will come back and start working on page 4 and 5.